Okie dokie. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, so today I know that we talked about, going over some vocabulary terms and stuff like that regarding trading, but we're actually going to go over, what is my routine? Like, what is the routine for actually getting into the market? What are you looking for? So I'm kind of just going to give you like the bare understanding of like how to actually understand the market, like when you should pop in, when you shouldn't. So I feel like today is honestly a good day just because tomorrow is a holiday. Why I say that is because today would actually be an example of what not to do. But in regards of just looking at the charts too, we'll go over that. We'll cover news, we'll cover certain things you're looking for, and also, the vocab terms that we talked about last week, we are going to apply some of those today. So, if you watched the last video, you should be able to understand some of the things that I'm going over. Like I always start off going over TradingView. So this is where I mark up all my charts. I'm already on Euro USD. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that. I think I had it open. I did. I had it open already. So we're just going to take a look at Euro USD just as an example, and also news. So as I said before in the past, we use forexfactory.com to look at the news. And, when we pop in here, you see a page that looks like this. And really what you're looking for are the dates that mark either today, tomorrow, a few days from now. How is the market going to be looking? So we actually had major news regarding with Trump. Trump actually had some affiliations with Asian countries. So you want to say that UJ might be looking kind of crazy. UJ actually stands for USD JPY. So with North Korea, that's right. It was North Korea. So you wanna make sure that you're getting into the right trades, right? So that's what I started off looking for is news before I even look at a trade. So forexfactory.com. Today is the 3rd, so July 3rd, it's a Wednesday. I would say that the best days to trade are honestly Tuesdays and Wednesdays, just because when Sunday, around 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, when the market opens on Sunday, it's honestly not as predictable as it would be if you start to see a whole move form when covered on Sunday and Monday. So when you start to see that on Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's when you start to see the really big flow of the market. You get to see all the patterns that are starting to be created, and so forth. So July 3rd, that's today. I haven't really traded this week. I have been looking at my trades though. So I would say that CAD, we have major news going on. So that was at 8:30 a.m., which was the New York session. And then you have at 10 a.m. was USD for ISM, non-manufacturing PMI. So you don't actually need to know the news, although it is always great to know news and like understand like what's going on in the world, because that way, once you start to see things reoccur again, you know how the market's going to react, right? So for example, what I mean is, let's say we have gas storage or something, or we have a CPI, right? So when we see CPIs, we know that it's not really a big deal. When we see stuff like unemployment, we know that, unemployment is a big deal, but it's mild news compared to other things that we're doing in the world, right? So that's just something that I want you guys to be aware of. And it looks like AUD also has news for retail. And you see we have some orange boxes as well. I usually don't pay too much attention to those, mostly just the red boxes, or the red files, I mean. So on July 4th, we actually have a holiday for USD, which is actually a bank holiday as well. So the banks are not entering the market. we all know that that it's not just traders like you and I that enter the market. It's also banks. It's also the government. We're all included into the market. So if we have a holiday, the banks have a holiday. Just make sure you keep that in mind. It looks like on July 5th, we have some major moves for CAD and USD. So we have a lot of employment changes, unemployment rates. So basically, we're just covering all employment that whole entire day, which is Friday. So that's 8:30 a.m., which is around the time when the New York session is now open. So that's just some things that I really want you guys to look forward to. This morning, we probably had some moves done for CAD, for USD, and AUD, but on July 5th, we are back in on the markets and we're looking at USD and CAD for sure. Okay, so just wanted to make you guys a little bit more aware of what's going on with news. So looks like it's gonna be a good week. Tomorrow we don't trade because it's a holiday, okay? So let's just get right into it. I think that we should take a look at just to like get ready for maybe July 5th. Let's pretend that we're just getting ready for July 5th. Actually, I'm not really pretending. I'm actually going to do that. So I'm going to do it with you guys. I'm going to show you guys how I actually mark up my charts, how I actually check for news, how I actually make moves when it comes to trading, right? So even if you're lost right now, just sit back, relax. You guys are honestly going to get the hang of it. I promise you. I'm going to sound very repetitive, but repetition is the foundation of you learning how to trade, okay? There's a lot of things, a lot of tools, yes, but you guys are going to start to get it after a while. You know, don't give up. Don't put this aside either. If you don't take it so seriously, try to see the big picture. Try to see it as though, you know, trading is honestly a great way to make money for yourself. Make the money that you make now or make even more money than you've ever imagined. So, you know, you really want to see the big picture when it comes to trading. Even if you take even if you have like simple goals when it comes to it, or if you take simple trades, that's fine. That's a start, right? And you can honestly make really good money off of just a simple trade too. So, okay, we're just going to go ahead and look at for July 5th, CAD and USD. So I'm going to be looking at UCAD. So, like again, we look at forex.com. I already marked this one up quite a bit, honestly. Crazy. Okay, so we are on the daily time frame. I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything that you guys have seen. And we're just doing this the way that I normally trade, okay? So we're doing it at a normal level, so nothing too advanced for you guys. But I really want you guys to honestly like understand and apply everything that you see here. Eventually, I really want you guys to honestly just send me your own markups as well. So more practice comes more understanding, right? So what do when we mark up a chart? We go ahead and turn it into the line graph. Okay. So I like to look back in the history. We started, I want to say that we are looking kind of flat in the market, meaning that we're looking like kind of like consolidated in this general area. So we are going at a slight up angle. And you remember we were talking about trend lines. I see a trend forming here. Right? I see one. I know I'm not really supposed to do that, but I see a little trend right here. Okay. So I like to look for trends on the bigger, as like the bigger picture, basically. So that's like my goal whenever I'm like looking at the market. First thing off the bat, that's what I see is a trend, right? I see a trend to the upside. I see we broke down from this trend. We went down to the second trend line. We're connected from an old past trend, and so forth. So what I like to do, since we can't really determine what the market's doing, is normally I like to just go ahead and keep support and resistance. That's what I like to do. I like to look for support and resistance first or second, because we like to look for trend lines first. So I'm gonna go ahead and just form my support and resistance based off of where price is at right now. So I see that we're somewhere around this area right here. So I'm gonna put a line directly around here, right? I see in the past we've had almost a touch, a definite touch, definite touch, definite touch, definite touch. So this seems to be a good support and resistance line. We have support right here. We have resistance at the top right here. We have resistance at the top right here, support right here. So this is honestly a really good trend, or sorry, a really good support and resistance line right there. In the past, you know, we may even break through this trend right here. We may even go to the downside, who knows? So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and mark another one from the top. So like one up here and one down here, just because you're not too sure if the market's gonna be moving up or down. So looking back at the past, let's see if we find a good support and resistance line. I think that this area seems to be favored by the market right now. So you see this is a lot of support right here, support right here, support right here. We did break through a little bit and come back up. That's all right. Do I see one in the middle? I do. I see one right here. That looks like a good one as well. You see right here, we kind of trapped price. Right here, we kind of trapped it a little bit and even consolidated a little bit right there. It acted as a resistance up here too. So let's look for another one. And generally, I like to do about maybe like 4 or 5 support and resistance lines. So I think that this is a good area right here too. Okay. And actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and fix something really fast, just because I think it's kind of hard to see for you guys if I keep it this way. Appearance, the grid lines are a little too bright, right? That's better. I think that's better. Yeah, that's way better. So see, now you can see the lines a little better, right? Okay, so like I said, we're looking at where price is at right now. And we're trying to find support and resistance from the past compared to the future. So let's see if anything lines up here. I would leave this one out. This one isn't really too much of a big deal. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is what I see right now as far as support and resistance goes. So that's pretty much how I mark up my support and resistance. Next step would be finding appropriate key levels. So like I said, I look at the last 3 digits or the last 2 digits. And if it's the last 3 digits, I mark it up, I round it up to the 100th place, or the last 2 digits, I round it up to about 50. So 17, I'm just gonna keep it at all zeros. Boom. The second one, I see 591. I'm just going to round it to 600. Boom. The next one, I see 602. So 600. And the next one, I see 504. So 500. Okay, so that's how we mark up support and resistance. We mark up where the price is at right now. There is a chance that, you know, support and resistance might show up a little bit more up here. I just want to keep it simple with you guys. I don't want to, drive you guys insane with all the lines if that's a little bit hard to see. So we're just going to move on forth from there. Right now we have it on the line graph. We're on the daily time frame. And what I tend to like to do is I use this indicator right here. These are called indicators. They help you figure out where the market's moving. My favorite indicator is called the MACD. My other one is called the RSI. So they basically just help me determine where the market's heading. They're not always 100% accurate, okay? You can never rely on indicators 100%, okay? But personally, I do like the MACD. It's one of my favorites. It shows me where the market's really heading, in my opinion, more accurate than all the other ones that I tend to use. MAs, which are they're very helpful too. They're actually a part of the MACD as well. So let me just show you how it works. So normally when you look at the green and the orange in the MACD, the green part of it is actually considered a buy. So if you connect the crosshair, so this little cross thing I have here, if you guys connect that in comparison to what's going on in the market at the time, if you scroll up and see where it is, you see how it kind of starts here on my MACD compared to my to where the market's at the moment. And then you move forward to the end of it, it kind of shows you where the market was going up, and then where it stops with the green, it shows you that the market's going down, right? So that's just something that the MACD is really helpful on. So for example, right here too, we had a small buy in this section right here, and then it sort of stopped right about here, and it started heading to the downside and closed right about here. So just wanted to show you guys how the MACD works. It's honestly an amazing tool in helping you predict where the market's going, gives you good confirmation, and that's all it really is, okay? Confirmation. It does not determine the market for you. So, and also we have some moving averages in here as well. So if you look a little bit closer, the blue and orange lines, or blue and red lines, whenever they cross over, like this one's very apparent right here. Whenever it crosses over, it means that the market's going to be switching as well to a different side. So let's say I have an area that's not even predicted yet. So like an area like this, I might assume, it won't go away, okay. I might assume that at some point they're going to be touching, and then the market's probably going to be heading in the opposite direction. I could see that happening pretty soon, but not too sure when, right? We don't trade off of what we want to happen. We trade off of what we see, okay? That's how we trade. We trade off of what we see, what we already have, what's in front of us. And then, after a while, that's kind of like your rule of thumb, you start to notice that in the market. So now that we're done with the daily time frame, we're going to go ahead and move on to the 4-hour time frame. And on the 4-hour time frame, what I'm usually looking for is if I can see any trends in the market, or if I see any patterns in the market at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off of the line graph and put it back to candlesticks. So I like to kind of make sure I can see all the candlesticks spread out. I want them to not look clustered. So I like to spread them out quite a bit, and then I'll close it down just so I can get everything that I really can see on my graph. So I do see us heading towards the downside a little bit. I don't really see any indication of any familiar patterns, not yet at least. I don't see any reversal zones. I think that the market's just kind of determining whether or not it wants to move yet. for USD CAD, a good time to be trading would probably be the New York session, so like in the morning. So Thursday morning around 8:30 a.m. So we should be expecting, well, actually we can't trade tomorrow because it is a holiday, but you know, on July 5th, you know, that's the day you really want to be trading, and you want to be trading the New York session, or you could trade the London session, but the New York session is more accurate for it. So, you know, right here, as you can see on the MACD, I see it kind of like forming a cell. It would probably stop maybe like around here, but that's just my assumption. We're making a slow drift to the downside. I'm just gonna go ahead and create a trend really fast just because I want to see the accuracy of it. I'm gonna use the extended line. And usually what I tend to do is I start from one wick and stop at another wick. So here's one wick, here's another wick that I clicked on. And you can see pretty much how accurate it was. You know, we kind of formed an Elliott wave where it was kind of like bouncing on this trend line right here. And it's still sort of bouncing. It wasn't creating this big, like, you know, zigzag movement. Really, it kind of stopped around here. Usually when it slows down, and usually when it's moving at a sideways movement, what tends to happen is that it's going to start shooting up at some point. So I imagine that on the 5th of July, that a lot of people are going to get into the market to get into some buys. So the market's going to look crazy on the 5th. So if you have opened up your demo account, I totally recommend you start with something reasonable. I would recommend you start with maybe like $200 or so, and a good leverage would probably be like 1 to 200, 1 to 500, 1 to 50. That would be good just to see some realistic results. And what I want you guys to do is, you know, play with your MetaTrader 4, and on July 5th, try to get into the market for USD CAD. Okay, don't be scared. You guys are working with a demo account, and with the demo account, you guys are playing with monopoly money. Okay, we want to see what's going on. So, you know, we're just looking at the market. We're studying the market right now to see whether or not it's going to be a buy or a sell. My assumption, just based off of, you know, what I've been through before, what I've seen with news and everything, and just like how I know UCAD moves, I'm assuming that we're going to go to a buy, but, you know, I just can't sit here and assume that. I can only tell you what I see. But I see us hitting maybe this level right here, and, you know, we might come to this key level right here and bounce a little bit, and then maybe make a decision and move up again. But like I said, we haven't really seen everything yet. So that's pretty much all I see for the 4 hour is a trend line to the downside. I don't really see any patterns at all. So moving on from the 4 hour, we're just going to go ahead and go to the 1 hour. Just looking a little bit more closely. You know, at the 1 hour, we're still looking for reversal zones. We're still looking for patterns. We're still looking for trends. Right here, right now, I am seeing us respecting this key level. I want to see it kind of, like, I don't really want to see it consolidate, but I have a feeling it's going to consolidate before it decides to make another move. But as of right now, market's a little bit indecisive. And I think that people are kind of holding out off of UCAD at the moment just because they're waiting for the 5th. And, you know, people are more than likely getting out of the market right now because it's not a good time to be in it since tomorrow is a holiday, although I'm pretty sure some people are still trading. Right now at this time, 7:29, it would be a good time to go look at UJ. So after this one, we're actually going to go ahead and look at UJ. Like I said, you know, you guys want to make sure that you guys are following all of the session times. So right now, we are heading to the downside very slowly, very gradually, but you know, I can't really determine where the market's heading just yet, not until the 5th. So when I'm looking at it on the 5th, now that I've already marked up my chart and everything, I'm just going to be waiting for it to come along. But what I tend to do, if I notice that the market's kind of consolidated, it's not moving the way I really want it to, what I tend to do is I like to trap price at where it's at. So, you know, I'm pretty sure today people are going to start getting out of the market. And at that point, what I like to do is I like to trap price if I notice that it's not really doing too much. And this right here looks like a whole lot of consolidation. I honestly wouldn't trade this unless I see like a true pattern, or I see that the MACD was looking like it was making sense to me, or I see, you know, some trends, some very significant trends, and not just extreme sideways movement. So I'm just going to go ahead and wait until the 5th, and then, you know, at that time, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be trading it. So I'm gonna fill you guys in with what the results were for UCAD. So we're just going to look at USD JPY. Okay, so with UJ, oh, did I click on the right one? Let me just make sure. Yeah, right? That was like instinct to me. Okay, so I'm going to start back on the daily time frame, like we always do. Okay, looking kind of good. Looks like we have a trend to the downside, but like I said, we put everything on the line graph to make it easier to see. This was back in January, sorry, and this is the movement for the whole entire year so far. So what do we start with? We start with support and resistance. You could do, I would say support and resistance first and then look at trends. So from the looks of it, I definitely see support and resistance here. See a little something going on right there. Right here looks good. Here looks good. And any outside movements going on right here also looks good. And I'm just going to add one more just because the market looks a little consolidated, so you can't really tell where it's moving at the moment. I'm just going to put one right about here, and that shows quite a bit of accuracy. And what do? We round it out. So this would be 700. This would be 150. Sure. 150. 31. I'll do 50. 24. I'll do 100. 51. We'll do 50. 39. We will do 50 as well. Okay. So now it looks a lot more cleaner. Our key levels make sense. And I did add a lot more key levels just because I'm noticing a little bit consolidation right here. So I wanted to make some key level moves for the upside and the downside, just because, you know, when it decides to break, we don't know if it's going to go to the upside or downside. So we just want to be prepared for that. And then just for the looks of the MACD, we're kind of hopping around. We're definitely going to the downside quite a bit, and just based off of what the price was looking at, or like what the market was looking at before, we can even go down to a level like this, and like continue that trend. There's a possibility of us hitting this level to the downside. There's a possibility of us going past this area right here to the upside if we wanted to. So really and truly, all we're doing is we're kind of like comparing what's going on right now in the present and like looking back at the past and making sure that that looks pretty accurate, you know? But if you think about it, like if you really look at this, doesn't this kind of look like the past is repeating itself? So like this area right here, it looks like it's repeating itself right here. I mean, that looks pretty much like the same. We're forming some bowls right here, and you know, it kind of looks like a giant heads and shoulders, if you will. Like 1, 2, 3. Like, well, 1, 2. Sorry, somebody's calling me. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of what I'm seeing, but I definitely see us heading to the downside, maybe even just like coming back down a little bit more and then shooting back up, or maybe even coming straight down, right? So we have a buy, and we're definitely coming back for a sell soon. Just off of MACD kind of shows that. I would say our sell would be right about here, to be more exact. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and create my little trend for this, which I see forming right here. And just so nobody's confused, I'm actually gonna delete this really fast and then choose a different color for it, just so it just stands out from the yellow. Boom. Oh, that moved a little bit. And then one right here. Okay, so what does this allow us to do? This trend line right here, kind of like, if you think about it, separates this area right here as though we are going down in a channel, right? So there's a possibility that we could be following this channel, or we can actually be heading back to the upside, and then it would just like, you know, break out of this channel. So that's pretty much what we're looking for, is for this to actually break out of the channel. Now, if the market was kind of looking at like something consolidated like this, for example, if it was kind of looking like this and it was getting a little smaller, if that was the type of consolidation we were looking at, what I would normally do is I would flag it. So flagging means that we're going to trap price. So what I would do is find a trend wick, or I would find a wick from the upside to the downside, and then I would actually find it from the downside that was the biggest and come back and, you know, pretty much shrink it in. So what this allows us to do is pretty much just watch to see if it's going to break out to the downside or break up to the upside. So, you know, that's something that's really, really helpful technique-wise. That allows us to actually notice like where the market's truly trying to head. If you really don't know what it's doing, right? So this is a really helpful tool, really, really helpful when marking up a chart and determining whether or not it's moving in the direction you want it to. So that's pretty much what I do regarding trapping price. But this is another great way of trapping price, is to see if it's actually forming a trend to the downside, a really formal trend to the downside. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up a little bit more. Okay, so from the daily time frame to the 4-hour time frame. So one thing I wanted to let you guys know is that let's say we have a US holiday, it is still okay to trade another pair that's unrelated to like USD if that's a holiday, right? So JPY, AUD, GBP, but you don't want to trade USD if it's a holiday just because it's closed and the market's really not going to be moving, okay? That's your time to take the day off, in a sense. You know, if you're your own entrepreneur, and this is all that you do is trading, that's a good time to take the date off. So looks like my support and resistance pretty accurate. I'm just really waiting for it to break out of this area. You know, it's kind of like trapped in there. So once it decides to like make a move possibly to the downside, that would be great. We are on the 4 hour, but what I do see is kind of a heads and shoulders forming, and hopefully it's respecting that, and that's how it may like break back down to the downside. So let me just go ahead and show you guys that really fast. I see almost a perfect heads and shoulders forming right here. And hopefully we get a little bit, you know, going on to the downside. So so I'm hoping that it's probably going to be moving to the downside like that. But, you know, if it doesn't, you know, it might just even just break right through the key level. So that's something you really want to prepare for, is whether or not it's coming back down and actually respecting the heads and shoulders pattern that it's forming. So coming into the 1 hour time frame, I should have taken off the lines on the 4 hour, but that's okay. That looks pretty accurate, okay? I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna flex. Like, this looks really accurate. I'm gonna just move this one to the top right there. Move this one right here. I wanna see if it's honestly gonna, like, you know, finish this off, honestly. Right there, that looks good. That looks good right there, okay? This might be a solid I might hop into too. I think that some of you, you know, when it comes to marking up, we'll talk about marking up all day, but we do need to go over your MetaTrader 4 so that you guys have a little bit of a better understanding of how to enter the market, or like, you know, your stop loss, managing your stop loss and stuff like that. So, you know, we'll go over that too. I'm really just trying to figure out whether or not I should have you guys look at it via cell phone. So like kind of like do a demonstration with my phone, or whether or not I should actually like, you know, open up my MetaTrader 4 account online instead of doing that. So we'll see. I'll get that rearranged for you guys. But so far, you know, we'll just go ahead and like keep looking at the market, keep analyzing the market. So heads and shoulders, that's what I see forming at the moment. So that's another confirmation for me in determining whether the market's heading to the downside. I think we are gonna finish it off. Another confirmation might just be that we're coming to the end of a buy right here on MACD. So we might just even stop like maybe around here, possibly, quite possibly, or maybe at the end of the triangle, we'll see. But pretty much at the edge of this triangle right here, I was really just trying to follow the wicks to the downside. Yeah, so I was just trying to follow the wicks to the downside, and that's kind of why I stopped right about here with the triangle. But as soon as your MAs on the MACD cross, that's when you can go ahead and just flip it and you know, see if it's actually going to head to the downside. So what I mean by flip it is that when it crosses, it's going to flip from the green, which is the buy, and go to the red, which is the sell. So as soon as they touch, as soon as they cross, that's a great time to get into the market for a sell. And I would say that you would catch quite possibly, if it is accurate. You know, I can only babysit the market. I can't predict its future. You know what I'm saying? Or I can kind of come close to it, but I can't really like tell you that it's 100% accurate. But what I see is we could probably catch about 70 to 80 pips to the downside, which is pretty good. Probably even 90 pips. It's pretty good. But what I tend to do is I consider my key levels take profits. So like the first one that hits, once MACD decides, you know, we're gonna cross, the first line that it hits probably won't be my take profit just because it's so close. But the second one would probably be a take profit. I'll look to see what the market's doing around this area. And then if it decides it's still going to the bottom, I would go ahead. My phone is blowing up today. Okay. I would go ahead and just like continue to the downside. But I would actually stop where price has been at before. I wouldn't go all the way down to this key level right here, even though I know it is a strong key level, just because of what I've seen in the past. But yes, we want to match the last side of the heads and shoulders or come a little bit above it. So I would say that this take profit's pretty good. So I would say that you guys are catching about 20, 25, 30 pips to the downside, which is still good. And you know, you keep growing your account doing that. So very nice. That's on the 1 hour. The 15-minute, what we tend to look at more is our candlesticks. Cooperate. So looking at the candlesticks, right here, we had a lot of rejection to the downside with the wicks being so long to the downside. So it wasn't really favoring a sell. Looks like we were still continuing for a buy. These wicks that were long at the upside meant that we were coming back for a sell. Okay, we had some long wicks right here. So we had lots of disagreement in the market around this area. Here, we're kind of making some sideways movement just because the market doesn't really know what it's trying to do. But I have a strong feeling that people in the market are going to go ahead and turn this into a sell really quick. Just so that we can finish off this heads and shoulders and keep it pushing. Just from what I see. And it looks like from my MACD on the 15-minute, we are almost done with the sell, but it might just even keep going back strong. It might even drag out a little bit more and then head for a buy. So maybe it's not like a perfect heads and shoulders, which is okay. That tends to happen. So don't be flustered. Don't be worried about that. But you know, if it does go back to the buy, I'm pretty sure it's coming back for a sell. Okay, so if it did one of these and it made a little small buy and then it comes back down for a sell, that's pretty much like a retest back to the downside. So just ride it out. Don't be scared of that. I mean, you guys are using a demo, hopefully. You know, don't just enter the market with no education, you know. Make sure you actually understand everything you're doing. And look, it's looking really, really good, honestly. I might just hop in after we form this area and after my MACD decides, hey, we're pretty accurate, let's just jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the 1 minute just to confirm that all of my candlesticks are making sense. And it looks like one big cluster right now. Not really a fan. Even MACD is showing that we're kind of clustered. It's looking very jagged. And right here, it's telling me that it is a buy right now, which kind of shows, you remember back on the 15-minute, it was kind of like looking sideways down and slightly up. So I'm thinking we're coming back down to keep it coming for a sell. So we might just finish that last triangle for the heads and shoulder, or the last shoulder in general. So it's looking pretty good, pretty jagged at the moment, but we're making our way slowly to the downside. And where I would like to head into the market would be towards the end of this shoulder. Okay, so comparing my MACD to it. Okay. Yep, we're having some crazy ups and downs, but that's okay. Oh, just kidding. I need a sideways. My gosh, I need water. Excuse me. I need a sideways rectangle really quick. So I'm waiting for us to pretty much just finish this off, basically. Just finish it off, you know? So we're just looking for this last bit right here, if it decides to make it. But pretty much it fits into this, what I consider is kind of like a trend line, but I just wanted to show you guys like where the grouping is. So it might just hit up here, and it might even just come back down, bounce around quite a bit. So that's completely normal. Expect that. Expect it to look messy, and that's fine. What you guys are really looking for, okay, that's weird that it kind of moved, so that was a waste of time. That's okay. What you guys are really looking for is overall trend. So if you see some stuff that looks too consolidated, too messy, don't worry about that. What you're really looking for is really just whether or not it's looking like a downtrend or an uptrend, right? Keep that in mind. So, you know, one thing for a lot of people when it comes to trading is getting into entries, and also, you know, getting scared of whether or not the market's going to be heading in their favor. It really does come with knowledge. I'm telling you, that's a really big part and a really big play in that kind of role. So you just really want to know what you're doing. Like, you really want to respect all rules when it comes to trading. So respect the key levels, respect the trend, understand that that's what the trend is, and you just respect it. And then also, if you see a pattern, that's what it is. So just go along with it, because normally, psychology wise, or yeah, pretty much psychology wise, the way that people are really looking at the market, if they see another pattern just like you and I see a pattern in the market, more times than not, they're going to be respecting that pattern. So if a pattern's forming in the market and it's very, very obvious, uh, more people may know about that pattern, and so what they would do is they would try to follow it. So you may notice that, like, when price is trying to determine itself, it's probably going to go ahead and just follow the pattern, just because people are going to be like, oh, that's not a buy, that's going to be a sell soon. So, you know, you're going to start to see that a lot, and that's completely normal. But I'm very much hoping for it to form this heads and shoulders and just keep that in progress. But who knows? It might just disrespect it and completely go to the upside. So totally okay. We just want to trade what we already see. That's all that matters. It's looking kind of crazy. One thing, the last thing I really wanted to leave you guys with was, how do you get the MACD indicator, just so you guys can like fool around with it, see if what you guys see is accurate, and if you guys need help trying to understand a little bit better, I'm always here to give you that sort of understanding. And, you know, if you guys need any more sessions alone, like even just like alone, that's fine. But look, see, now we're pretty much like following this trend pretty accurately. It's looking pretty dang good. It might just come right down, shoot back up, come back down, shoot back up. But, you know, eventually it's going to break out of this channel. So we want to be very prepared for that. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and just leave you guys with the indicator, MACD. Have fun with it. MACD, okay? It's this little tab up here that says indicators. It has a squiggly line and a plus sign. And then you just type into the search bar MACD. And then you just click any MACD that you guys see. I believe the first one was the one that I clicked, and it gave me it. And if it looks slightly different, that's okay. They pretty much work all the same. So that's my my first time explaining to you guys, like, what are you guys really looking for in the market. We'll still keep focusing on entries. I just haven't really seen like a perfect entry just yet. But regarding that heads and shoulders that I saw with you guys, we'll go to the 4 hour. It's a little bit better in the 4 hour. My entry would honestly be at this key level right here. That's probably where I would enter, just because I know for sure that it's already formed this shoulder right here. So I would just want it to slightly go to the downside, and then I would probably just catch it at this key level, and that key level is 107.45. And that's pretty much what my entry would be. And I would follow it down to the downside and collect. If you don't want to do math, 30 pips to the downside. So that's just what I would do. And then, you know, if it's still continuing to the downside, I would just collect what I see here. So, you know, just to give you a better visual representation of that. This needs to come down a little bit. Yeah, okay. Just give you a better representation of that. It's pretty much right there. I'll just go ahead and get the coordinates right. Okay. And I would just, like, if this take profit is already taken, this might be my second take profit. So that's another 30 pips. So that could be a possible 60 pips to the downside. But just to be safe, I would take this 30 pips and call it a day, unless I see that it's actually continuing to the downside, okay? So for my visual learners, I'm looking for this, and for this, and quite possibly this, okay? So this would be my first take profit if it decides to go to the downside. Boom, cancel, oops, cancel. Dorothy, what are you doing? So I'll just make this take profit 2. And you guys are more than welcome to take that trade. Please let me know if you need help. Please, that's what I'm here for. I don't know where that text went. That's okay. TP2. So boom, I'm gonna put that right there. And we only take profit 2 if it does actually hit this key, or like if the take profit 1 continues to the downside, you can go ahead and just take that take profit 2. And you know, there might even be a take profit 3. So, you know, just to keep that in mind as well. That's why we mark up our charts, so that we know where we can actually like enter the market and actually exit the market, what to take profit, what are we not looking for, what patterns we see in the market, what trends we see in the market. And, you know, key levels are so important. So, you know, it's looking pretty good. I'm telling you guys, it's looking pretty dang good. On the 4 hour, don't pay too much attention to the MACD. You may want to pay more attention to the MACD on the daily time frame and then on the 1 minute time frame, okay? Just because on the 1 minute, you're seeing a lot more accuracy. So like literally a candle is forming every single minute. to open this up quite a bit. So chances are we are heading to the downside. That looks like quite a bit of more dominance to the downside. So I think we are starting to make those kind of moves right now. And Dorothy might just hop right into this trade. But like I said, we're just waiting for it to do its thing. So I'm just gonna keep looking at it on the 4-hour just to make sure that it's actually doing that. And I would be looking at it on the 1 minute. And usually what I tend to do is I have one screen open for the 1 minute and then one screen open for the 4-hour on 2 different desktops. Or sometimes I might use my laptop and the desktop at the same time. So that's just kind of what I'm seeing right now. And hopefully this was really helpful for you guys. And, you know, when it came to the vocabulary and marking up, hopefully everything kind of just like collabed for you guys and you just see it all panned out. But we will go over more skill sets. We'll go over more talks about the banks. We'll go over more about psychology, what is it called? Frame of mind. So, you know, all those things are very, very important. A really big a really big role in it all is just having a clear mindset when getting into a trade. You don't want to be too greedy, because when you're too greedy, you might, you know, even just jump in too late and just try to make the trade, but you might not be able to make that trade, you know? It might just like go the opposite way for you. You also, there's a possibility that you can be very hesitant too and like miss out on all this greatness, you know? So it's really just really nice to know everything that there is when it comes to marking up your charts and everything. You want to be for sure. You want confirmation before everything, so that gives your mind clarity when you enter the trade. So that's pretty much my lesson for today. We will go over more vocabulary terms, but for now, I don't feel like it's a good idea to bombard you guys with all that information right now. Right now, I would just like for you guys to actually study the vocabulary and then get the feel for it. And as I'm teaching you guys, hopefully it all just clicks in and gets meshed together. So that's pretty much it for my lesson today, you guys. If you guys have any more questions, just let me know and we can go over more stuff. So have a good one. Have a great 4th of July, and I'll see you guys for next Sunday. Okay, bye.